So my name is John McConnell. Nice to be here. I'm a senior manager at Cisco. I work in our digital business transformation organization in Europe. And I'm here today to talk about the technology behind our switches and our routers. No, seriously. If I was going to talk about the technology behind our Ciscos and routers, I'd have the doors barred. I'm conscious that we're on the 39th floor and everyone would exit. What I would like to talk about, that I think would be of more interest to the audience, is a little bit about the journey that Cisco has gone through. I don't know how many people in the room are aware or familiar with Cisco as an organization, but we really have transformed our workforce and our work environment very significantly over recent years. And I'd like to run through that story a little bit. We only have 15, 20 minutes, so it's not a lot of time, but I'd like to touch on some stuff that I think might be useful to you as an audience. Okay, so the first thing, our starting point, I think, is asking ourselves the question, what is success? How do we define success? When we do a workplace transformation, what is it going to look like? And how do we measure what that success has been? Because you can't really improve, you have to measure what you're improving. Now here's the sorts of things we looked at, right? And I'm not very prescriptive, right? It's sort of looking at the what's, the hows, and the whys, right? What are people doing, why they're doing it, and how we might be able to improve it. So on the left-hand side, we've got things that are more tied to the workspace. It's about occupancy, it's about use of energy and consumption. In the middle, it's more IT related, which is sort of where Cisco's coming from a little bit. So when we put in new IT systems, what's the speed at which they've been introduced, and how quickly is the workforce adopting them, and then monitoring them. And on the right-hand side, we're talking about more the HR side. How do we use the workspace to attract the right talent, to maintain that talent, to keep the talent, and to make them productive? So that's very much where our starting point is, so driven by what we're trying to get to. And the second thing I would mention is looking at when to make that transition. I said I'm part of a digital business transformation group, so we look at overall business transformations. We did some research last year, and there's lots of research around, but our research said, for example, that in most industries, the top 10 incumbents, 4 of those would fall outside of the top 10 in the next 5 years because of some digital disruption from another incoming company. So companies don't have the choice. They've got to move, or they're going to suffer and they're going to die. So there's no better time to start than to start now. Cisco is a big, big company, so we're very conscious for big companies. It's sometimes hard to make those transitions. You've got to make them early, and you've got to make them very proactively. So I just do 2 slides of Cisco, 3 slides actually. One is we're a very big company with roughly 72,000 people worldwide. Very much a global company. Most people are working in different locations from the manager. 4 out of 5 people are at home at least 1 day a week, and 1 in 10 of our workforce is completely mobile. If I look at myself, for example, I've got a European role. I'm based in Europe. I'm talking Europe all the time and globally. My boss is in San Jose, and I go into the office when I want to go into the office, and I want to go into the office maybe 2 times a week. So I'm a typical, no different from anybody else, but big mobile workforce. The second area is looking at our real estate. So we've got almost 23 million square foot of real estate. Now I think the done thing to do is to turn that into football pitches so that people understand what size that is. So I looked up football pitches. There is no one size of football pitch. If I use Wembley, this is 300 football pitches, Wembley size, which still doesn't mean a lot to me. If I look at it as one big bungalow, it's a bungalow that stretches almost 1 mile by 1 mile square. So we've got a huge real estate. We've got roughly 500 buildings, 100 countries, 2/3 in the US, maybe 15% here in Europe. So very big organization, and we've got lots of real estate. And as I said, we've been through this transformation journey. The next slide I put up sort of reluctantly. The guys in the US love this because they're quite, fantastic. But this is a testament, I think, to what we do and the success we have. And I think that the workplace that Cisco has put in place is very much a part of this success story. It's definitely recognized that our workplace is something that people desire to be in, and our workforce is something that people want to be part of. Okay, so the drivers for change for us, and I'm not going to go into this in detail, right? And the reason I'm not going to go into this in detail is because this is familiar ground. We talked a bit about this yesterday, I'm sure we'll talk a bit about this tomorrow, and this is talked about many, many times, right? We've got a changing of the guard, we've got the baby boomers, which I'm nearly in there, right? So I'm going to be retiring, apparently, to my yacht in the Mediterranean, and the Zs and the Ys are going to be coming into the workforce. And I've got growing up teenagers, and I tell you what, they are very, very different. There's no doubt about it. The war for talent, we heard yesterday that Google are paying $100,000 to people leaving college. We're based headquarters next door to them. We're fighting for that same talent, and we're fighting for that talent right across the world. This is one of our armories to get that talent. Underutilized assets, we talked about, lots of assets, less than 50% utilized. I won't go into there. The nature of the work is changing dramatically. It's all global. It's no longer doing transactional, the same tasks again and again. It's more of this knowledge type environment. And the social contract, work from home, I want a life balance, all of that type of stuff. So I'm not going to go into detail other than to say that Cisco, we face exactly the same issues and challenges as any other company that's trying to be progressive in this area. And here's how we look at things a little bit simplistically. So on the left-hand side, we've got the physical real estate. In the middle, I've got the technology. And in the end, I've got sort of our most important asset, which is really our people. And if I look at those in a little bit more detail, I look at the physical real estate. I mean, this is the Dilbert world, right? This is the world that anybody that's been in the workplace for any length of time is probably familiar with. We've all grown up with a little bit of this. And this reflected, I think Cisco, apparently 70% of our workspace was designed for individuals sitting in their own place, doing their own job in isolation. That's the workspace that we had also in the Cisco world. We've changed dramatically, right? We've got an environment now that's much, much more attractive and much, much better for people to be in. The idea is we need to have an environment that attracts people to the office because they don't need to come into the office. So if we go there, it has to be because we're going to be more effective. And the other thing that's changed very significantly is that 70% that I mentioned that was individual workspace and 30% was for other activities, it's completely flipped. So now the 70% of the spaces in our office is specifically used for collaboration. It might be in small spaces, it might be in bigger spaces, but we only have 30% now that's allocated to people working on their own. So that's one of the major differences we make in terms of the workspace that we've got, as well as being very varied. That's some typical pictures of our workspaces. This is I think that's our Reading office that I took on Friday. So once we combine some of the physical side with the technology, here's the way it sort of layers on top of it with sort of a Cisco spin on it. And what I noticed is a couple of areas. The first thing is the Wi-Fi. When we come in now, Wi-Fi is pervasive, right? So for anybody in the organization coming into the building, they can take their device, their computer, and they can walk freely from anywhere in the building without any issues whatsoever. So the workforce becomes very mobile moving across. And the second thing is that then gives us the heat maps in terms of understanding where people are and what way they're moving about the building. It's no longer clocked in, there's 500 people in the building, they're in there somewhere, and at the end of the day, 500 people have clocked out. Hopefully. Hopefully not 501 or even a problem, or 499. And the second thing that I notice also that's very, very pervasive in the company is video conferencing. So we recognize that most of the workforce is not in the same building as the people who need to talk to each other. So we put in the facilities to make it very easy to reach out and engage other people from different regions. So we have video conferencing in all the small rooms, in the conference rooms, in the big rooms, even in the corridors, at the coffee machines. And people tend to find different ways to use that conferencing really to try to do that collaboration, which is why we're coming together in the building and to try to encourage that. And the third area that I would just pick up is this Internet of Everything, right? It's the IoT, it's the power over Ethernet, it's the digital ceiling, it's connecting the unconnected. So we're very much on that journey to try to connect up all those other devices in the building to try to utilize those to give more personalized experiences and also try to manage and control our costs. So here's a couple of sort of quick scenarios, right? The first one, and again, I don't think this is magic to anyone, this is just some of the stuff we've implemented. And this we haven't implemented everywhere because we're on that journey, right? So this is very much looking at that customized experience. It's very much about individuals coming into the rooms. When they come into the rooms, they've got the option to do the light intensity that we talked to before. They've got the option to control the color of the lighting. And they've got the option to control the temperatures. They've also got the option now, because the building knows where they are, to set up the phone and the video and all those profiles to match whatever they want it to be. So once you know where people are, you definitely can manage it and make a much more personalized experience. The second area to look at, really tied to that, is the other side, so that's enhanced experience, is the reduced costs. And once all these devices start to be connecting up, what we're finding is that we can actually, because we have much more granular visibility of what's happening in lots of different areas, we can bring back the control centrally as well and manage the costs and do things that need to happen to give us advantages there. Especially the lighting because it's pervasive, and also the lighting because it's such a big cost for the organization as well. And the third area, the third area to talk about is really, the analytics. We're doing quite a number of analytics. We've got demonstrations of it outside as well. Clearly on the right-hand side, these two rooms have been used. The conference room has been used at the back. This area in the left, at the front, in the forefront, is not being used. So then you've got all the options to say, how do you use this space when you've got the data? You could put, some reading areas in there. It's funny, in our office in Bedford, we've got places to do jigsaws, which apparently is quite popular with some people. Or we've got areas to go and rest. In some offices, we've even got climbing walls. So you use the space, I think then you've got the data to use the space to do what you want to with the space. So again, I don't think any of that's completely radical. I think it's just showing that Cisco, as we go on this journey, to get to be a type of company that people want to come and work for, we've gone through this and we're eating our own dog food. The other thing that we've done is we've gone through a process of journey mapping, looking at the experience. We measure experience in a couple of different ways. We look at experience in terms of this measurement, in terms of can people do the job that they want to do in the space? When they're doing that, how easy or difficult is it to get that activity done? And the third area is to look at sort of the experience of whether it's a good experience or a bad experience sort of logic as well. And then what we've done, and we do this ourselves, and we do this now with our customers as well, because we've gone through this journey, so we also do it with customers, is we just go through the journey, and we take a number of different scenarios. How much time have I got? We take a number of different scenarios, and it might be, just simple, I want to set up a meeting, I need to have 6 people there, and 4 people of them are in different continents. Can I set it up? Can I book the room? When I go and find the room, does it happen quickly? Does it happen easily? Can I share slides? Can I share videos? Can I record the meeting? Can I do it securely? At the end of the meeting, can I share the recording that I have afterwards? And we measure that journey, and we measure it as it is today. And quite simple terms, then we look at each stage of it, and we look at what we could do better on that journey just to improve the experience. And we do all those incremental improvements. At the end, we end up with a much better experience. And what we're really looking for is areas where there's a big delta here between today and what it could be. And what technology, or what place, or what processes could be in place to improve that. And the other thing that we've done, And this is part of our process to accelerate the adoption, is we've looked at putting in place some space blueprints. And when we've got these blueprints, what we find is that the types of scenarios we run through, there's not an unlimited number of them. There's maybe half a dozen, right? So there's somebody working on their own in a very specific way, right through to training or major conferences or big meetings or small meetings or innovation spaces. So there's a limited number. And what we've tried to do is put together some templates, these project workspace, and what that does is takes one of those scenarios and puts together what the space should look like for it to work in an optimum way, in terms of what needs to be in the space, how much area is needed, what technology is needed, the size of the screen, the angle of the viewing, where the microphones are, where the speakers are, so that the audio is good. And then these spaces can be used and can be rolled out in a very modular and a very quick way. So that's a space for one person, and equally, here's a scenario for a 20-person meeting room, which is clearly different. The screens are bigger, the cameras zoom in automatically on who's speaking, etc., etc., etc. But that has allowed us to be able to move out, accelerate the adoption right across the whole of the region globally. So just to sort of conclude, so I said, part of our transformation story, we started with the stuff that's important to the business. In this case, it was a lot to do with talent. It was a lot to do with underutilized spaces. We went through a number of processes that were really looking at that journey and also getting feedback. And that process identified gaps that we were able to fill. And at the end of the day, and I wouldn't say the end because this is a continual journey, we were able to put things in place for processes and office space and IT that improved people's perception of what was going on. And that was a big part of that digital business transformation for the organisation. So one final slide to summarise, because they're waving at me at the back. I would say this is not an exercise that has been done in one silo. Absolutely not. It's got to be driven by what the business needs to be successful and the business priorities. Very much involving the real estate, the IT, and the HR organisation, right? There are no silos that allow this to happen in individual organisations. That's certainly very much our experience to have that all linked up. And the second thing I would just add is from a Cisco perspective, you know, we're not just about switches and routers, right? We also have been, you know, we've been eating our own dog food. We've been on this journey, and it's also a journey that we also share with our customers now, and we also help them, I think, also to make that journey. So that's been done. I think if anyone would like to talk to us afterwards, we're outside, so please do come along. Thank you very much indeed.